The NHS in Suffolk is under fire again tonight, this time from one of its own GPs. Dr Paul Thomas says he's been working in porter cabins for 17 years, despite promises of a new building. Like some other critics, he's been angered by plans to spend £500,000 on car parking for NHS head office staff near Ipswich.
Shabby and run down, the Gipping Valley practice at Barham near Ipswich. Since 1992, Paul Thomas has practised here. He has around 2,000 patients on his books. For 15 years, he's tried to get the portable buildings replaced. But he says a lack of support from NHS management has blocked progress at every turn.
I think vendetta is a very strong word to use, but I'm on the receiving end, so it might not be personal, but it's certainly personal for me. I think, stepping back a bit, I'd say that basically what's happening is the NHS is now run like a big business, and like all big business, they don't like small outlets.
It comes just weeks after NHS Suffolk agreed to spend nearly £500,000 buying land for a car park for managers working at its headquarters. This isn't the first fallout Dr Thomas has had with the NHS. Earlier this month he was fined £10,000 after a computer with confidential patient information was found in a skip outside his practice. He also broke drug dispensing rules. But his supporters claim patients are on the receiving end.
I've been in the services, I was in the services in the 50s, and I think we expected to put up with Nissan huts. But nowadays people want state-of-the-art medical facilities.
NHS Suffolk wouldn't be interviewed today, saying it's working on options to improve the practice. But Paul Thomas says the NHS has lost its way and is now run for the benefit of managers, not patients. Richard Daniel, BBC Look East, Barham.
The police have released a photograph of a man who died after collapsing on his driveway in Eye. 73-year-old Richard Clark was found on Cranley Green Road with serious head injuries. A 42-year-old man who was arrested on suspicion of murder has been released on bail. Army disposal experts have carried out a controlled explosion after a bomb from the Second World War was found in Suffolk. The bomb was lifted onto the back of a trailer during the onion harvest at a farm at Hoseley before it was noticed. Nobody was hurt.
They'd lifted it out of the field and put it in the rows with the onions, and then lifted it out into trailers and tipped it into the Medina to be sorted to load into the lorries, and a student had found it.
A woman has been evicted from her own home in Colchester after the local council used new powers aimed at tackling nuisance neighbours. A so-called closure order was granted after neighbours complained about the woman's noisy behaviour.
For more than 2 years, Tracy Mallet lived here and made her neighbours' lives a misery.
Loud music, beer cans, they used to drink all day, always turned violent. It's just been a nightmare, really.
People's lives around here, they've been relationship split up, they've had sleepless nights, depressed, they've really brought them down.
Last night, she was out as the police moved in. The Borough Council had used new powers to take possession of her rented property. They can seal it up for the next 3 months. Antisocial behaviour closure orders were introduced in December last year. It means the police or council can close places where there's been persistent disorder or nuisance for the previous 3 months. It can be a business or a home. Neighbours are celebrating.
I've had double glazing put in my house, which has made a vast difference so that I didn't hear the noise. And the people coming up the street and it's just unbelievably wonderful.
But won't the problem just move elsewhere?
This individual has got another property, privately renting somewhere else in the town, but we hope that this action will help her to amend her behaviour so that we don't see these problems happen again.
Tracy Mallet wasn't available for comment. For the time being, at least, she won't be disrupting the new tranquillity of Shrubland Road. Jenny Kirk, BBC Look East, Colchester.
It could be weeks before a fire at a tyre recycling depot in the Fens goes out. 2,000 tonnes of rubber have been left to burn because the fire service says it would take millions of gallons of water to put out.
People who are already prone to asthma may well find that it triggers attacks in them, and they should use their normal relieving medication. But there's a potential for industrial fires, for carcinogens to be produced, but we've monitored, looked for them, we've not found anything like that.
Now, earlier this week, we spoke to the parents of Daniel Reid, who drowned in the sea off Great Yarmouth. Well, after the programme, we were contacted by a woman who was on the beach that day and tried in vain to rescue him. So what should we do if we see somebody in trouble in the water?
Karen Kangura was at the beach with her children when she saw Daniel Reid and his friend struggling in the water.
I'd noticed the men about 10 foot out, really close to the shoreline. At that point I took the decision to run sort of the couple of 100 metres up here to the lifebuoy and leave the children to get to it, to throw it to the young men. It took at least a minute to get it off, and when I ran back I had expected to see the boys in the same place I'd left them, and all that was visible at that point was just the top of his head under the water.
Karen ran into the sea, but despite a land and sea search, Daniel wasn't found. The boys are tied to stop vandals, but the Coast Guard says that amateur swimmers shouldn't attempt a rescue without one.
And we say people shouldn't go in and do rescues, but we know people might well attempt it. And we try and say to people, if you are going to risk your life, make sure you've got some backup support, take a life raft with you, don't swim out unless you have to, and raise the alarm.
The Riverside Centre in Norwich, seeing how the professionals do it.
Toby swam to the casualty and turned him onto his back, and he's put him into extended arm tow, holding his chin open to keep the airways open, and he's going to swim him down to the shallow end to keep him safe. In a situation where someone's got into difficulty, that they may still be conscious or unconscious, it's the easiest tow because you can keep them at a safe pace from your body so that they're not kind of getting you into trouble as well.
Karen wants Daniel's parents to know that she tried to save their son.
All the what-ifs in the world won't bring him back, but I know that I did do my best, and I hope that Daniel knows that up there now.
This bank holiday, the Coast Guard wants swimmers to stay in sight of family and friends. And Janet Gadgill for BBC Look East in Great Yarmouth.